Hello everyone, Theodore Burns here for week 9 of the IndyPro2000 lap walkthrough series. This week we are at Indianapolis Road Course. Some of you may notice this is coming out about a week early. We are still in the start of week 8 actually in the season, but I will be gone for the next week starting tomorrow, so I had to try and rush and get this done so you guys could have it out there in time for the start of week 9. So with that being a little weird coming out a bit early, it's going to be a little bit different this week. I wasn't quite able to put everything together into one, super quick lap, but I have two almost identical laps here. And basically it was just whether I messed up sector 3 or 4, so just a little mistake in each. So I figured we could watch, kind of a combination of the two laps and figure out how to get those together, get all the way down to this optimal of a, 1:21.1. But I think a 1:21.3 will be pretty competitive here. So with that, notes on the setup this week, I think it's pretty consistent. The iRacing baseline felt pretty good. I just want to make it a little bit more consistent in some of the transitions, especially in that sector 3, 4, sectors 3 and 4, where you have some of those left-right transitions. It just felt a little bit lazy. The rear end was starting to come around a little bit, so just trying to manage the overall grip of the car a little bit more effectively. And with that, was able to find a little bit more time out of it. So with that, let's watch one of the hot laps here from the cockpit view, and then we'll look at it corner by corner. All right, and so there we have one of the 1:21.322s. So with that, we'll go back and watch that one. So this lap, I'd say, is good all the way up until the very end of the lap there. There was a little mistake going a little bit long in the final big brake zone into turn 12. So with that, let's start off going down into turn 1. Long straight here at Indy. And we have a lot of brake markers up here to get ready for the corner. For turn 1, it's going to be a pretty straightforward brake zone. I'm looking for the 4 board here, and so we can push this just past the 4. Any farther than that, and we're really struggling to get down into the corner. So I'm gonna start my braking just as the car is passing the 4 board. And this is going to be a lot of braking here in the straight line, and then very little trail brake as I start to actually turn the car into the corner. And part of that is because we still have a little bit of the banking here from the oval coming down, and so if we start to carry too much brake in, it's really easy to start locking these inside tires, and when that happens, it just pushes us a little bit wide. So I'm going to really focus on trying to make sure I get all my braking down that straight line, and then have very minimal trail brake on the actual turn in. So I'm going to turn in. I want to try and avoid these. These are actually metal curbs here because they do just kind of pick up the car and throw it a bit wide. in all my testing, I didn't really have an issue of them grabbing and spinning the car out, but it was more just I run over it and then I miss the exit of the track. So, but I want to get the right side tires right down onto that and shoot for a pretty late apex here. And as we can see, the track is still sloping downwards all the way until about this little like gutter right here, right where the grass line starts. So it's going to be really important to stay ahead of the car as we're still driving downhill because it will have a tendency to understeer until we get to this point where it'll kick back. And we want to make sure that we're not too far over. There is this bit of pavement here which can kind of save us, but we don't want to end up out here because now it makes a much tighter turn 2 over to the left. So I want to come out about right here, so I'm not quite all the way over to the white line. I'm a little bit off of it. If I'm coming in a bit shallower than that, that means I'm just compromising. I'm not rolling enough speed through the first corner. I don't need to make a huge compromise in turn 1 to get a great run out because it's not a super long run out of there. But so this is kind of, I'd say, the best kind of compromise between the two. You don't want to overslow through turn 1 to really set up for 2 because the car has plenty of downforce to make this work here. So as we continue through turn 1 into 2, I'm going to get into full throttle through here, still in second gear, and start to actually turn into the corner and try and get the car all the way down right to the grass here. Use all of this curb. It's very flat, basically just painted extension of the racetrack. As I come into that, I'm just giving a little dab of the brake just to get the front end turning just a little bit harder, kind of try and bend it on the grass around here. And then as I'm on that apex, I get into about 50% throttle, and I don't ease into it until I can straighten my hands out and make sure that I'm making this exit. You can see that it's almost a little too soon because I'm still fighting the rear just a little bit because the track is extremely flat here. And with the car loaded up so much, it's going to be hard to get the power down. And we don't want to slide the rear end out, but it's also important we don't want to get on throttle too early to understeer over into this grass. We want to end up using all of this track up and end up fully over here onto the right as we come out into turn 3. So with that, we can watch this section back one more time, real speed from the chase camera. All right, and with that, we start right into turn 3. So this next section I consider turns 3, 4, and even 5, 6 is still kind of all the same complex, and that takes us all the way onto the back straight. So we're going to watch through this next section all kind of in time here. So turn 3, we're starting off based on our exit, far right-hand side of the track, and this is fine. It's easy flat out through turn 3. Nothing to really worry about there, but we are going to start naturally tracking out here with the steering and ending up out about mid to just left of mid track. And so the real hard part is we don't want to drive too hard into turn 4 because turn 4 we really want to set up through the chicane and onto the back straight. So we're really we're going to compromise turn 4 and slow down to get the best run out of turn 4 because there's a lot of time and an overtaking opportunity at the end of that straight. So we're going to bail out of this what feels like pretty early. And so basically my mark for this is kind of the end of the curb here, and then where the track becomes straight again. And I'm keeping my eyes up here. I'm just catching this in my peripheral, and I'm keeping my eyes up here on this apex because this is what I'm actually driving to. So as I come out to here, I'm just up in third gear, and it's going to be a pretty light brake. You can see it's just a light but long brake, and that's just due to the nature of we're trying to brake in a constant corner. So we can't get that super high peak. We're only hitting about 40% brake here in this brake zone. Again, a light and long brake as we bend the car into the corner here. So we're going to end up coming down to second gear, but I don't want to downshift too early because the engine will overslow the car. Because this is such a long entry into it, because we're in this constant corner, a downshift will significantly decrease our rolling speed into the corner, and it'll just bring our minimum a bit too low. So I want to wait to get down to second gear until later. And basically, it's right when I'm onto the curb here, and so I want to get the car down onto the curb and have that sensation of rotation, and that it's starting to grab and really, dig in. And right at that moment is when I'm going to get back in throttle. And you can get in pretty aggressively here. We're going to be about 50 to 75% right away, and then do 100 as we start to come off and open up our hands. And you'll notice we're going to exit, and we want to end up about mid-track on exit. And this is part of that compromise that I was talking about through turn 4, because if we end up way over here, we really have to shoot, and we're just going to scrub so much speed trying to get back for the chicane. The chicane is easily flat out, but we want to have the best setup and best run into it as possible to carry as much speed through it. If we're really pushing through turn 4 and coming way out onto this curb and having to slice back, just this. Even if we can keep it flat from this angle, just the sensation of turning the car so aggressively and so hard and so many times in that short distance just scrubs off too much speed, and it will be a couple miles an hour slow onto that straightaway. So with that, it's about mid-track, and then we're going to take it flat out. I want to eat all of this first curb, all of this curb at turn 5, and then just maybe kiss it on turn 6 there with the right side tires. And as we track out, we'll try and stay to the right of this white line. You don't end up picking up a 1X out here. If you end up driving onto the not asphalt. I think it's cement out there versus the asphalt on this portion. So that's the roadway, I think Holman Boulevard coming through the center of the track. So yeah, we can use all of that exit if we need it. But again, it's all about just getting the best run out of turn 4 as possible. With that, let's watch it through one more time in real speed. All right. So with that, we come down to our next section. So I'm going to treat this, this is basically sector 3 we're going to go through. This is turns 7, 8, 9, and 10. A combo of a few corners here. And yeah, it's all just a big string together. And in having driven this in real life and worked with some professional drivers here in real life, there's a couple approaches that you can actually take through this section, and in how you drive it, how you approach the corners, and it all ends up being a complete wash in the end. No matter what way you drive it, it comes out being the same amount of time at the end of this sector. So with that, I'll show you this approach, which is going to be kind of the back down, and take our time through turns 8, 9, and 10, and kind of back up all 3 of those corners, because I've had to do that similarly, turns 3, 4, and throughout the lap. I'm already kind of in that mindset, so that's how I'm going to drive these. The other approach, which I will mention, is that you can very aggressively drive deep through turns 8, and then almost like park it at turn 9, get it back, and then accelerate through 10, and it ends up being about the same time. This isn't really a section you can pass in, so just kind of some general notes on that. You can definitely drive this section differently, and there's not necessarily a right or wrong way of doing that section. So just want to preface this section with that. Okay, with that, starting turn 7. My brake marker, again, I'm looking at the 400 board up here, and I'm going to be driving just a little bit past it, maybe like the 375. Heavy brake zone, all in a straight line, but I can carry a little bit more trail brake because it's a nice flat brake zone. But again, I want to avoid this metal curb, just come up and kiss it as I need to. As I hit it, get in throttle pretty aggressively, so I just want to work on getting these right side tires loaded, and hitting this curb here will unload those. So I want to just come up to this curb to maximize my corner radius through here, but I don't actually want to hit it because it will upset the right side tires. I'm really working on just the weight transfer and making sure the car is settled in this section is the most important thing. So as I'm there, I'm right back in throttle aggressively, keeping those right side tires loaded, very smooth on the steering. Once I get the hands straight, I give this burst of full throttle there, and I actually start to turn into turn 8, but as I turn in, I'm going to bail out of it pretty aggressively, and actually only carry the about 50% throttle over the corner here. And I want to use all of the curbing here, and you'll notice I'm not using any brake in this section. I'm just doing all this with the throttle. And now in this transition, I'm not quite back into full throttle, but I want to steer back early, get ahead of the car so I can maximize my track usage here. And now I'll use just that little dab of brake because I carried quite a bit of speed in to try and get the minimum, get the car turned in and all the way down onto this apex, fully onto this curbing here. But you'll notice I just give this little dab of brake just to get the car turned in. It's not actually to slow it down. And then once I'm right back on the corner, it's very similar to turn 8 where it's a 50-60% throttle throughout. Now comes the tricky part in setting up for turn 10. So turn 10 has this big access road that actually comes in and across right at the apex. And because of that, there's a large apex curb going all the way in that we can really use with this car and really cut without picking up any sort of 1X. So with that in mind, that's what we're kind of looking for. And it's kind of shielded right behind the grass here. But with that, we do have a little bit of a run out of turn 10 and a possible, if you're brave, overtaking opportunity at turn 12. So we want to make sure we can maximize our run out of this and we don't run out of track on exit because it is all grass out there. So with that, I don't want to end up, flying across turn 9 and ending up out over here because, again, similar to the chicane earlier in 5-6, it's a lot of, steering, and just throttle management, weight transfer to get the car turned back in. So I want to end up about mid-track here, and as I get just a squirt of full throttle in there, but not even quite before I have to start braking back for the corner. And so this is another, light and longer brake, so it's only about 25%, carrying as much speed in as possible, and that's just to get the car turned in and all the way down onto this apex. And you see I bring the right side tires right over this transition of the grass here. Use all of this curbing here, car fully on it, and as I get there, start to ease into the throttle about 50%, easing into full as I come out of it. Just managing so I can manage the exit of the track here. I don't want to drive out onto the grass. If I don't have that enough brake there on entry, or I get in throttle too aggressively, it is very easy to just drive the car straight out onto the grass here and lose a lot of time. So I want to try avoid doing that, but I also want to try avoiding a lift late because that just kills my run out of there. So to get the best run out, you got to be patient on the throttle coming across the turn 10 apex and making sure your approach into that is set up properly. So with that, let's go back through, watch this one more time in real speed from the chase camera. All right, so with that concludes the first 3 sectors of my, my fastest first 3 sectors. So now we're coming up to sector 4. This is where I messed up on this lap and went just a little bit long in turn 12. And if you go back through and watch the hot lap, take that as a good reminder of how you can easily adapt your driving. Even if you make a mistake, try and recover and lose minimal time. Because you see, I had lost minimal time, through that as maybe a 1/10 and a half mistake, but still recovered on track, lived to race another day. So with that, we're going to jump to end of this 4th lap, which I was able to match through those sectors, but I was just pretty pedestrian through sector 3 there, so we won't watch that. But back to cockpit camera. So I'm going to play through this section in the cockpit camera through turns 12, 13, 14 in the, if I can find it, in the cockpit camera, just so you can see it from the driver's point of view first, and then we'll go through the corners. So this time I didn't go too deep into here. So coming out, turn 11 up onto the banking. We don't need to get up here too soon, but we want to make sure we're all the way up and maximizing our up near the wall by the time we get to our brake zone, which is just prior to the 300 board here. So on that previous lap, you'll notice I went just past the 300, and it was just a little bit too much for the corner. So with that, don't want to brake past this 300 board here. And similarly to turn 1, this is another one where we're kind of coming off the banking, and we're really driving downhill all the way past this apex. So again, that's as soon as we start turning into the corner, I want to bail out of this brake as much as possible and just carry only this tiny little bit of trail brake. Don't want to hit too much of the metal curbing here, but it's, as I come off of this curbing and down into kind of the pit right here, the car is still going to understeer, but I can already start to get back in throttle pretty aggressively, and I can really, this is just to carry my speed through this section, because the big thing was braking early and turning in to not lock up, which will just send us way too long, like I did on my prior lap. But this is to carry the speed, basically apex out. So once we get there, I'm back in throttle pretty aggressively. And notice the car keeps tracking out all the way over here to the left. You can get all the way out to that curbing. It won't affect us too much because we have a very slow turn 13 coming up to the left. So with that, it's full throttle, driving out of that as soon as possible, and just carrying that speed. And I think this is one of the big sections where it's easy to gain a lot of time, or it's easy to lose a lot of time when you're first learning this track, is that you're coming into this corner a bit slow, and then you're continuing slow across this apex. And the speed you can carry on this apex is pretty incredible, but you still have to make sure you get the car slowed prior to that. So if you watch back through the hot lap, you'll notice I carried a lot of speed just blowing right past this apex and kind of ran out of track, and that's where I end up losing that time. So it's still a balance, but you'll find that you're when you first start off, you'll be pretty pedestrian through turn 12 here, and just on power far too late, and that's the main thing we're trying to avoid through turn 12. So with that, watch it one more time in real speed from the chase camera this time. All right, so our setup for turn 13. Not really a good brake marker for this corner. What I will say is this apex curbing here, it starts way earlier than the apex actually is, and so it's very deceiving. And so the actual corner is like way back here, and it looks like it's starting to actually turn, and you're like, oh, that's a turn. It's like, no, the turn actually happens like way back here. So with that in mind, we can just drive in pretty deep, and you just kind of have to drive this one on feel. I just kind of try and get your eyes down here to this curbing, and just know that you're going about a car length past this curbing is where your actual apex is, and that's what we're going to have to kind of use our judge there. And it's just a little squirt up, staying in second gear, and then it's real light on the brakes, and just trying to manage as much speed into here as possible. And that's kind of how you have to take this, because it's a very flat corner. It's not a very heavy brake, turn, and drive out, because this is such just a long corner. It's going to be a lighter and a longer brake. And so with that, it's really important to get our eyes onto that apex, which is where this extra little curbing juts out here. We're going to clip this a very late apex so we can get on throttle aggressively once we're at the apex, manage it on the way out, and wherever we end up on exit is fine. I don't need to compromise and have a super tight exit out of there, because even coming from this blue and white curbing here, this car has enough downforce. We have no problem making it through turn 14 up onto the banking. And with that, we can just kind of continue through, because this is kind of a continuation section, and just get the left sides loaded consistently, turn it down. I don't want to get onto this curb because it can kick the car just a little bit. So just right up close to it, just kind of follow the track here. Don't hit the grass out there because it's a rough transition up onto the oval, and just manage the car on the way out. Maybe on the very first lap, you may have to catch the left sides just a little bit if you haven't done a good job of warming the tires, but in race trim, once everything's up to temperature, should have no problem taking that easily flat out, just managing it with the hands. With that, we'll watch that one more time in real time from the chase camera. And all the way to the line, and that was a pair of 21 322 323s. So yeah, don't remember going over conditions, but they're same as always. 69, 71 track, 25% usage for this, built the setup in 50%, so that's like 21, 22C, minimum wind. I will still be around to answer questions for you guys if you need on YouTube, the forums, Discord between now and through the start of next week, but I will not be around to actually race. So hopefully you guys find this helpful. It's out there ahead of time. Get some practice in over the weekend and get ready for week 9. And I will be back for the week 9 broadcast, so I will see you guys at Indy racing next week.